You don't seem very fiery to me. You
I
seem
get
like you might just...
crazy. I get crazy.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
You don't want to set me off.
Rob Reiner, a legendary filmmaker, a respected Hollywood figure, and a family story that most people believe they already understand. But what if the most important detail in the Rob Reiner case happened before police ever arrived and was reported wrong from the very beginning? What if the moment involving Rob Reiner's daughter, Romy Reiner, and the emergency call wasn't suspicious at all, but deeply misunderstood? Because once you look past the headlines, this story stops being about shock and starts becoming about silence. It started with something completely ordinary, a routine massage appointment, the kind of small, predictable detail that never makes headlines until it suddenly does. On that quiet Sunday afternoon, a massage therapist arrived at the Reiner residence for a standing weekly session. According to publicly available information, this was an appointment Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner rarely missed. Same day, same time, same expectation. But this time, nothing followed the routine. The bell rang. No answer. She waited. Knocked again. Still nothing. No footsteps behind the door. No voices inside the house. No movement at all. At first, it felt like a delay, a scheduling mix-up, something harmless. But psychologically, silence carries meaning. When a place that's usually responsive suddenly goes quiet, the human brain reacts before logic catches up. Absence becomes information. Stillness becomes a signal. Not noise, but the lack of it. Calls were made, messages went unanswered. That's when concern shifted into unease. According to sources, the therapist reached out to the Reiner's daughter, Romy Reiner, who lived just minutes away. Romy didn't hesitate. She rushed over, reportedly expecting nothing more than a misunderstanding. Maybe her parents were busy. Maybe they stepped out. When she arrived at the house, nothing looked wrong from the outside. The gate was closed. The home appeared peaceful. Everything looked exactly as it always had. That's what made it unsettling, because sometimes the most dangerous moment is when everything still looks normal. Romy approached the front door with mild unease. Not fear, not panic. No one expects their life to change in an instant. But the moment she stepped inside, that expectation shattered. And what happened next would become one of the most misunderstood moments in the entire story, because what followed was reported wrong from the very beginning. When Romy Reiner stepped into the house, her body reacted before her mind could. According to sources, there was no moment to prepare, no time to process what she was seeing. What happened next wasn't confusion, it was shock in its purest form. Psychologists call this the freeze response. When the human brain is confronted with something overwhelming, it doesn't always respond with action. Sometimes it does the opposite. It shuts down, muscles lock, thoughts fragment. The ability to perform even simple tasks disappears. This is where one of the biggest public myths took hold. Despite what many early headlines suggested, Romy Reiner did not make the 911 call, and that detail matters more than people realize. Because in moments of acute trauma, the inability to act isn't suspicious, it's biological. The brain prioritizes survival, not logic. Dialing a phone, speaking clearly, making decisions, all of that can become impossible. The emergency call was actually made by the person who was with her, a close male friend named Alex Silberg. Romy wasn't alone when she entered the house. Alex had accompanied her, and when her system shut down, his didn't. He was the one who reached for his phone and called for help. This single detail quietly reframes the entire story. It explains why Romy couldn't act. It corrects a major misconception, and it removes suspicion where it never belonged. To make matters more confusing, early reports also claimed Romy discovered both of her parents at the same time. That wasn't accurate either. She encountered one devastating reality first, with the second revealed later, after authorities arrived. Two separate shocks, one layered on top of the other. And that's exactly why Alex Silberg's presence that day would quietly protect her from something far worse. Alex Silberg wasn't a public figure. He wasn't part of the headlines. And in the early hours of this story, his name barely appeared at all. But his role would quietly shape everything that followed. Alex was not a stranger who happened to be nearby. According to publicly available information, he was someone deeply connected to Romy Reiner's life, a trusted creative partner, a collaborator, and someone she relied on both professionally and personally. That trust is the reason he was with her that day. When the situation unfolded, Alex became three things at once. First, a witness. He saw Romy's reaction in real time. He observed the shock, the panic, the collapse of her ability to process what was happening. His account helped establish a clear timeline, not speculation, but sequence. Second, an emotional anchor. In moments of extreme trauma, presence matters. When someone's system shuts down, another person can ground reality. Alex stayed with her, supported her, and acted when she couldn't. And third, a legal stabilizer. In serious investigations, proximity matters. Romy lived nearby. She arrived first. She saw the scene firsthand. Those facts alone were enough for her to become what investigators call a person of interest, not because of accusation, but because that is how every case begins. Who arrived first? Who was present? Who saw what? Alex's presence answered those questions quickly. His testimony confirmed that Romy's behavior was not calculated, suspicious, or erratic. It was exactly what trauma looks like: panic, disbelief, emotional collapse. Because when details are reported incorrectly, truth can bend fast, and innocent people can be pulled into narratives they don't deserve. Alex's role helped stop that from happening. But this story didn't begin that Sunday. What happened that Sunday didn't come out of no of public attention. Police had been called to the Reiner residence multiple times over a long period. Not dramatic raids, not events that made headlines, welfare checks, disturbance calls, mental health-related visits that ended quietly with no visible consequences. On their own, each incident seemed manageable, temporary, something that could be handled and moved past. But together they formed a pattern. Psychologists refer to this as warning fatigue, when repeated exposure to instability slowly dulls the sense of urgency. What once felt alarming begins to feel familiar. Fear turns into routine. Crisis turns into management. At the center of that pattern was Nick Reiner. Over time, he became increasingly isolated, struggling to maintain structure, stability, or consistent direction. According to sources, his behavior grew more unpredictable, and the distance between him and normal social life widened. For Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, this wasn't a lack of care, it was the opposite. They were parents doing everything they believed they could, emotionally, financially, and practically, to help their son. Support was constant, forgiveness was repeated, hope was renewed again and again. But love has limits, especially when mental illness and addiction exist together. Families often face an impossible question: where does support end, and where do boundaries begin? Holding on too tightly can remove consequences. Letting go too early can feel unbearable. There is no clear line. Then, in the weeks leading up to the tragedy, another variable entered the equation. According to sources, changes were made to Nick Reiner's treatment, adjustments intended to help stabilize him. Instead, they appeared to coincide with increased instability. Mental health treatment is not linear. Progress can reverse quickly, and systems often respond only after balance has already been lost. Which leads to the hardest question of all: how many chances exist before help comes too late? When the headlines fade, what remains isn't shock, it's complexity. Rob Reiner's story reminds us that fame doesn't shield families from private pain, and good intentions don't guarantee safe outcomes. The hardest truth may be this: some tragedies don't happen because people didn't care, but because they cared until there was nothing left to give. In the next video, we'll look deeper into the legal framework surrounding this case, the psychology behind the insanity defense, and why stories like this are almost never black and white. If you want to understand what happens next and what this case reveals about far more than one family, that's where the story continues.